English, because we have a very special guest. As usually, in the beginning of the year, Bulgarian Shipmasters Association organized seminar, and we decided this seminar to be on the professional theme regarding the very last news and news exactly the energy transition outlook. What is the final solution about this? Because these news are very important for transportation by sea. We invite and we were glad that our guest is Leonidas Karystios. He's a global project manager of registered Diagnostica Veritas. Presently, the registered Diagnostica Veritas is on the first place in the ranking of the Ajax members shipping register. And we are very proud that we organized this meeting. I want only to say that for you, that Bulgarian Shipmasters Association is a proud member of the European Confederation of Shipmasters Association, and we make a lot of events, meetings. Every year we make one Global Compass Forum, which is international. And our goal to introduce the shipping industry, the shipping education, of course, and last innovation, which is carried out by the sea. Okay, I give you the board to our guest, Mr. Leonidas Karystios.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for the nice introduction. You saved me a few slides about talking about DNV. As you correctly said, currently DNV is the #1 classification society. This is the result of a merger between Norwegian Classification Society and German Lloyd, which was the German society, and that's why we have become #1. My good colleague Miroslav, who is based here in Bulgaria, is coming from the German Lloyd legacy. So, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much for being here with us. This is working. I just give you a small brief about myself. I'm a naval architect. I studied in Newcastle. I graduated in 1998. I have been working since, mainly in classification societies. In various places, like some of the exciting ones is China, South Korea, as you can understand, for new buildings. And I have, let's say, a passion for gas carriers. And since 2017, I joined DNV in Piraeus in 2017. So, a little bit about DNV. We have a center, one of our centers is in Greece, and we are covering the whole region that you can see here. Until last year we were much bigger, we were covering also Middle East and Africa, but we split, and now we are focused on big markets like Ukraine, Romania, Croatia, Bulgaria, Turkey, Cyprus, and Greece is the main hubs. So we have offices in all the dark blue areas, but we are covering also some other countries as well. Now, my presentation will be, as in the picture, trying to see any light in the tunnel, because we're living in times of uncertainties, as you know. I will focus on the maritime forecast. This is basically a study that we do and we update every year. So I will give you the latest one, which was released in third quarter of 2024. The next one is coming in 2025. But before going to the maritime forecast, I will try to make an intro about the economic fundamentals and how the shipping is reacting into this. So basically, we had recently, as you know very well, some significant geopolitical events that has impacted shipping. And unfortunately, despite the unfortunate these geopolitical events, on the contrary, shipping has benefited from that, and I will explain. We all know what is happening with the conflict in Ukraine. The cargo volumes transported was short distances, going into Europe. Because of the situation, the destination of these cargoes changed totally and found new markets, like in Asia or in the Middle East. That means that the ton mile for a cargo has increased by 6% for crude and 12% for oil products. Then we all know what is happening in the Red Sea. That was the traditional shortcut to connect Europe with Asia. This is not valid anymore. Therefore, everything has to go around the Cape. What does it mean for shipping? 30% increase in ton miles. And lastly, this is due to environment mainly, the Panama Canal, which was another significant route, is not available anymore because of the drafts they had there. That means that they have to find other routes and other destinations as well, which is roughly increasing the ton miles by 8,000 miles. That means that for shipping, this is good fundamentals. Now another element which is, I don't know why it's moving so fast. It was my intention, sorry for that. Another item regarding shipping is that when the vessels are trading well, then obviously there is a job for all vessels, new and old ones. And we see that in this graph that the scrapping of vessels has reduced significantly from 2020 onwards. 2024 was the record year that we had almost zero scrapping of vessels. That means that all vessels are still profitable. And the other interesting thing is that when the scrapping facilities do not have business, they increase their prices in order to make it more attractive to identify candidates for scrapping, because scrapping is also part of the value chain. That was up to 2024. So the fleet is growing. You can see that from the left graph. We are going into pre-2008 levels. If you remember, 2008 was the Lehman Brothers crisis. And as a result, it has made the global fleet older than what it used to be. I mean, on a global scale, vessels above 15 years of age, which okay, is not very old, but also covers vessels which are more than 20 years old or 25, now are 1/3 of the total fleet capacity. And when the market for shipping is good, we see a lot of owners considering that this is a good time to order new vessels. So the irony here is that we order new vessels and we don't remove the old vessels from the market. And that's happening only when the markets are good. Now here on this graph you can see that the yellow line was a good year for new buildings in 2021. The grey line was in 2022, which was not so high, and we were monitoring what's going to be in 2024. We thought it would be somewhere in the middle, but we were wrong. Okay. The reality is that 2024 was a record year for new buildings, and you can see that in this graph. In this graph we have different regions. So A is America, C is China, E is the old South Europe, Middle East and Africa, Korea, Scandinavia, Pacific and West Europe. The orange one is the amount of new contracts in terms of million GT that it was placed only in 2024. And the amount of vessels counts for more than 120 million gross tons. In previous years, it was two-digit. Okay, even in 2022, which was supposed to be a good year, it was 70 million. 2023 was 92 million. So we have ordered a lot of vessels to hit the water even in 2 years, from 2027 onwards. So historically, the demand for shipping is growing over the last few years, including 2024. As an average, the demand in shipping was about 5% per annum. Now, considering the geopolitics, considering that the fleet is aging, I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. We are not sure, and considering also maybe the Trump administration, maybe we don't know what's going to happen with the Red Sea situation or the Ukraine situation. It's a big question mark what's going to be the demand for vessels in 2025. Okay. A little bit about the new building landscape. China is by far the largest new building nation, followed by South Korea, which I remember my time when I was in South Korea and China. South Korea was by far number one, and China was not even close. I was in Korea up to 2012. Okay, it's 13 years, but for shipbuilding, that kind of change in the picture is considered quite remarkable. Japan still is relatively conservative. They don't have increased their new building capacity. Europe is very small compared to China. Now imagine, I'm sure you're following all the news, you're following what is the Trump administration announcements regarding China and taxing the vessels and increased port use if they're calling US ports. Imagine if this yellow bubble disappears. Okay, it's not going to happen, but it will create a lot of disruption in maritime in general. And it's not only the volume, yeah? You may say that, okay, they will move to South Korea, for example. The issue is also this graph. In China is a destination where you can go and build whatever ship you want. They have a huge portfolio. They cover all the main segments. Bulk carriers, containers, tankers. They are becoming very strong on gas carriers, which are more complicated vessels. On the other hand, in other countries, like South Korea, for example, which was the #1 new building nation, now they have a much smaller and lighter portfolio. Their focus is on gas carriers, more than 50% of their order book, then it's containers and a few tankers. The rest, like bulk carriers, is not something that is offered at all. In case of Japan, there still remained to be a nation primarily for bulk carriers, but the problem is that, as you remember the previous slide, the bubble is very small. They can build very few vessels, and they are focusing very much on their Japanese owners. So for the rest of the world, it is very difficult to get a slot in Japanese yards. And Europe, they still have, of course, shipping capacity, which is mainly on passenger and ferries. So, as I said, in 2024, and in previous years, a lot of vessels were ordered. So we are trying to see, not only in terms of how many vessels were ordered, but what is the percentage of those new vessels compared to the whole fleet. The order book currently, you can see it's quite nicely evenly spread. Number one is the containers. The second one, for the first time in history, is the gas segment, followed by bulkers and tankers. But if I draw your attention on the right side, sorry for that, on the right side, it is relatively healthy in terms of market fundamentals to have an order book which is around 10% of the existing number of vessels. In the case of containers, it looks a little bit high. However, the market fundamentals are quite okay, and we believe that this will continue. But on gas, which is my favorite segment, by the way, again, we put in water, or we are planning to put in water, 54 million gross tons. That's about half of the existing fleet. This is a clear indication that we're going to have an oversupply of vessels, which is not good. If we look at the landscape of deliveries, it looks okay for most of the segments. Like we have the plateau in this red line, and the vessels that are coming are going to be delivered. It's below this plateau line, except of the graph in the orange, which we have exceeded this plateau line. This is a clear indication, as I mentioned, of oversupply, which means that we need to find alternative ways to make sure those vessels are profitable and utilized. And there's two ways you can do that. When there is more cargo to do transport, it's not very easy, or we are a little bit, let's say, optimistic because of the Trump administration and the drill baby drill motto that with drilling we mean also for drilling for LNG, which they have a lot, but that will take a couple of years to become available. Or older vessels are going not to be utilized further. Just to give you an indication that in the spot market, steam turbine vessels, which are about 15 years of age, or even 20, I'm not sure why this is happening, but and again, it's insisting. For vessels which are 15 years of age or 20, as I mentioned, charter rates are zero. Never happened before. And despite all that, the new building prices remained to be on extremely high values. This is an average for all ship types, 183 million. And certain segments remain even higher, which is also brings up the second-hand prices as well in most segments. Actually, you can see that in tankers, which is the left part, the resale price is even higher than the new building price. This is because you buy a vessel now, you use it now, you make money now, you have to wait until 2028 to get the vessel, therefore it becomes, from business perspective, a little bit more attractive. Now, this is a question for you. Is according to this, do you think, if you were a ship owner, is it a good time to order a vessel now? Anyone? No?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It depends on the segment.
Sorry, anyone?
Depends on the segment. I mean,
Depending on the segment.
yes. If
What?
it is a bulk carrier, might be good idea. If a gas carrier, no. Not at all.
Okay, that's I agree totally on that. About gas carriers, as I said, my favorite one, I would say now is not good time to order. But I will show you this graph. Now we are talking about the new building prices being very high. Actually, what new building prices we have now is what we had in 2008. Not even exactly much, it's slightly lower. Of course, from 2008, after the Lehman Brothers situation, the new building prices were low and they suddenly increased from 2021 to 2024. One of the reasons why they increased is because of a lot of ordering from gas carriers. But the dotted line is that if you adjust the prices with inflation, it looks like it's normal. They're not high. So you might, let's say, take out of it. The prices will not go down for the next 2 years, that's for sure. So if somebody is saying it's not good time to order because vessels will become cheaper, I'm not sure this will be correct for the next 2 years. Ordering now, the slots are not available, so you are talking about 2028 deliveries or even 2029. If you leave it for another 2 years, maybe you're looking for even further delivery dates. So I don't have the answer. However, I totally agree with you. Don't order LNG carriers today, that's for sure. Okay, now that we have a little bit of a perception about how shipping has developed, let's move into the main topic of today's presentation. It's about the maritime forecast. Now, the maritime forecast for DNV, as I mentioned, is something that we do every year, and it's actually the more specific drill down study out of the energy transition outlook. So we have the energy transition outlook that I will give you a little bit of the highlights before we move into the maritime forecast. So the main key takes out of the energy transition outlook. What we are want to demonstrate is that we are somewhere between 2022 and 2030. There are concerns about the gas. What will be the gas demand? What we see is that we are reaching towards a peak of gas. Doesn't mean that we're not going to need gas, especially in transportation, in building and manufacturing. But when it comes to power generation, we are looking at reduced demand in the future. That is mainly because we have renewable energy now, wind and solar spreading around, which will take a lot of the demand. But it looks like the peak is approaching. It doesn't mean that we're not going to need LNG for the power grid. That is one element. The second one is that coal is going to be reduced by 2050 significantly. We have overpassed the peak. This year or next, we will have a smaller peak, but nothing like what it was in 2012. And the main reduction will be on power for sure. Because, okay, everybody's trying to decarbonize. I mean, I don't know what is in Bulgaria, but for example in Greece, they have stopped using all the coal ways of producing electricity. I think it's the same here, yeah?
Still there are some.
There are some, yeah. Now, another interesting conclusion is about biofuels. Sorry, it's about aviation. This is the demand for fuel in aviation. So up to now, it is, as you already know, purely based on oil fuels. You can recognize the negative peak in 2020 due to COVID very well. But aviation has to decarbonize like every other industry, same like maritime. And actually maybe the target there is even more strict than maritime. Now, the aviation is a sector that is very difficult to electrify. I mean, electric cars, yes. Batteries on vessels, yes. I don't know if you would be willing to travel with an aeroplane on lithium batteries like my Samsung phone, I don't know. So the alternative that is viable to them in order to decarbonize looks to be most significant to be biofuels. Okay, we believe that hydrogen may be considered, but after 2040, 2045. Electric fuel, e-fuels, okay, it's basically similar to biofuels. Electricity, it's very, very small portion. Okay, only to make some, let's say, operational efficiency by substituting with batteries. But for main driving aviation, we see that the only alternative for them to move away from fossil fuels is bioenergy. Now let's look at carbon capture. Are you familiar with carbon capture? Okay. Now, carbon capture, it is quite interesting, but we need to be pragmatic. Okay. The maritime carbon capture will play a very, very small role. So we need to be clear on that. One of the reasons is because the marinized technology for carbon capture systems is not available yet. It's not mature enough, and it can only be considered if we allow the technology to mature, the price to become affordable also. It's part of the equation. So we don't see it hitting maritime industry before 2040. So it's a long-term solution. What we do from now until 2040 is only to support the development of this technology. But the impact and the role of carbon capture would be on other industries and also on the hydrogen production. So based on that, the energy transition outlook can give us what will be the maritime fuel matrix from now until 2050. Again, you recognize the negative peak in 2020 due to COVID. Oil is not peaked yet. We will see oil continue to be used in the next 2 to 3 years for sure. The demand for maritime fuel, because we have a growing fleet, as I showed you before, will increase, and the natural gas will, currently we are at the, let's say, beginning. The peak will happen towards 2040. That will be the time where we will see possibly ammonia hitting significantly the maritime industry. And from 2045, we may consider also nuclear if that technology becomes marinized, safe, public perception, and all these kind of things. Okay. So now let's move on to the maritime forecast. As you know, we have a lot of regulators and a lot of regulations which are trying to regulate greenhouse gas emissions from ships. I don't know if you can see it very well, but we have in 2024 revised CII, EU ETS for ships, EEDI phase 3, Fuel EU, and we know that IMO is working for their own, let's say, ETS kind of scheme, which will be global. So, unfortunately, more regulations to regulate CO2 emissions, and CO2 will have a significant price, unfortunately, are coming towards our way. This is the IMO ambition. What they want to achieve is decarbonize shipping by 2050. I mean, net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. And in order to achieve that, they have agreed some milestones. The first milestone is 2040 to have achieved a 70% reduction. Now, what's going to happen from today until 2040 and 2050, I personally have no idea. But 2030 is fast approaching, it's only 5 years down the line. And the milestone is to have a 20% reduction. And I can tell you that we are far off that first target. Okay, so what's going to happen about the IMO ambitions is a question mark, because it will be reviewed in 2027. But the review will be mainly to see what we're gonna and how we are going to achieve the targets of 2030, 2040, and 2050. Now, what is shipping is doing for to meet these IMO ambitions? Let's look at the alternative fuels, for example. Now, as you can see on the graph below, the number of vessels which are operating on alternative fuels, and majority of them, which is about 36%, is on LNG, is continuously increasing. And actually the order book is even higher. 50% of the vessels ordered in 2024 were with some sort of alternative fuel. Specifically this year, we saw vessels ordered with ammonia as fuel. And that's the biggest irony ever. We are ordering vessels with a technology that is not available yet. I mean, it's a very serious investment to proceed with like that. But LNG is picking up, LPG is picking up, and methanol as well. Now, methanol is another interesting fuel, because methanol, if you look at it from an environmental perspective, it's not offering any benefits compared to MGO, for example. It's even, from fuel EU perspective, it's even more pollutant. However, if methanol or biomethanol comes available, then of course you will have a fantastic performance in terms of CO2 emissions, therefore means no tax. Now, this is an interesting one. We have tried to map, based on database that we maintain, on a low and high scenario, when all these projects announced for carbon neutral fuels will be available up to 2031. Okay, so it's this green funny shape there. Now, for shipping to be compliant on meeting the IMO targets of 2030, they need to take all this volume of neutral carbon free fuels, which is quite impossible. And the reason why is because traditionally, out of all the energy produced for all the industries, if we say that this is 100%, only 3% goes to shipping. As I mentioned before, aviation are going to take whatever biofuel is available. There will be no biofuel available for shipping to rely on. Therefore, we have to move into consider also other technologies. This year, in the Maritime forecast, we gave a special attention on to energy-saving devices. Now, this is it was very interesting, and actually we were quite concerned whether this is the right thing to do, focus on energy-saving devices. But we did it because we wanted to capture what will be actually the saving out of that. And we came up to conclude that by energy-saving devices, which many companies have already experienced with, can provide the 16% CO2 savings, which will be very close to the 2030 target. So we thought that we need to give emphasis on this because energy-saving devices cannot be ignored. And this is a good thing. I mean, thinking that, you know, shipping from oil, using oil, will have to move to ammonia, it's kind of unreasonable development. But knowing that we can park ammonia for down the line towards 2050 and utilize the technologies that we have available, and they are giving good results, I think this is quite encouraging. So which technology is that? Machinery efficiency, waste heat recovery, engine derating. When it comes to propeller, a lot of gains by cleaning the propeller or by retrofitting propellers, which is not such capex intensive solutions. And it's not only for new buildings, it could be also for existing vessels. When it comes to hull efficiency, hull coating, silicon-based paints during dry docking. Yes, it's a little bit more expensive than normal anti-fouling, but it has become standard practice for many owners because they saw and they presented significant speed reductions from their old vessels. Okay, air lubrications. It sounds a little bit scientific, but it doesn't cost as much as a carbon capture system. And indeed, it's not a solution for all ship types, because for vessels which they have a very big flat area, like LNG carriers. And who would imagine that when I was a student in 1994, we were saying that the first prime mover of shipping was sails, then it was coal, then now we are in oil, and sails are coming back again. Okay, it will not be the prime mover, it will be an assistant of normal vessels, which funnily enough, the results of these investments are not there to ignore. I mean, again, relatively small investment compared to the other solutions, and improves and plays an important role on the ship's efficiency. Actually, I think the WAPS, the wind assisted propulsion, is most popular on bulk carriers. Why not? And I think we have a project here, Miroslav, that it was installed. Wind assisted propulsion on MPV. No? No. Now, another element that we see is happening is digitalization. I don't think that with digitalization we will save on the fuel bill. However, operations will be more efficient. Reporting of greenhouse gas emissions from ships will be more efficient. Therefore, it will be also a small saving there. And another interesting technology that we saw, which again is not old, this technology exists, it is mature enough, it is standardized, is shore power. Shore power on big ports and big terminals are now produced and is available. In certain countries it's mandatory, especially for container terminals and cruise lines to have shore power facilities until 2030. But this calculation is quite interesting because it shows that, for example, the vessel is operating with MGO now. If we are going to use electricity to produce electrofuels, e-fuels, like e-methanol, e-LNG, whatever, you lose so much energy, and when you're trying to use the energy to onboard the vessel, it will cost you significantly higher than what you are using now for MGO. Of course, so therefore, the business case is not there. Why somebody would change to e-fuels when the cost would be so much higher? But if you take the electricity and you simply send it on board the vessel, which you have minimal losses, it could turn out to be, like for example, in countries like Norway, which they have very cheap electricity, it's amazing. But even if you go to China, for example, it is going to be cheaper while you are on board to use electricity from the grid than using NGO. So I think this is and it can bring overall into shipping a reduce of 7% on emissions. Now, lastly, on board carbon capture. Theoretically speaking, and actually from the business case and financial point of view, considering the assumptions, it is a good solution for shipping. However, the technology is not mature, as I told you. I mean, we have a long way to go. And the success of carbon capture is relying on having a complete value chain. I mean, you capture the CO2 on board the vessel, you send it into a facility, you have dedicated vessels that will send it to another facility, so it will be sent to the old oil fields. That value chain doesn't exist yet, and it needs to be developed. So if we want to be serious about carbon capture, we need the technology, as I mentioned, to be easy, marinized, and reliable, and we need all this value chain in order to actually consider as a possible way of decarbonizing shipping. I think it will happen, we will reach there because there is a serious investment, but not for the 2030 targets. Even if you look at the first graph, in order for shipping to reach 20% reduction in CO2 through CCS, considering what is planning to be available for capturing and storing the CO2, we need more than that. So we have a long way to go. More details about where CO2 can be captured and sent is in our website, which we try to maintain based on the information that we have. But it's interesting that there is nothing working as of today. Even the green ones is at planning stage. Okay. The blue ones is, let's say, the locations that we would like them to be carbon capture storage facilities, because it's actually big ports. So who's going to pay all this?
Customer.
Exactly. Now, if we look at 2030 only to achieve the 2030 targets, for bulkers and containers and tankers, maybe okay, the impact on cost will be around 20%. But looking at 2040 and 2050, the container transportation will double the cost. So that means that the freight rates needs to be increased. Okay. Who's going to pay at the end of the day? The consumers. Now, to be also honest with the regulators, they have introduced in the fuel EU, and we hope that IMO and there are lobbies which are trying to promote this. It's about pooling. And now pooling is a very interesting concept. It's basically you create a pool of vessels. It doesn't have to be from the same company. It doesn't have to be from the same owner. Which you have vessels using oil as normal, but you have invested in one vessel to use an alternative fuel. And in this graph, you have some options. For example, you have a vessel which can use, let's say, e-methanol if it is available, and they use that much quantity required because it's going to be expensive, only for that vessel to be compliant and not paying any taxes. That is one strategy. The other strategy is you create a pool, and on that vessel that can burn methanol, you give it all the methanol you can possibly burn for all its trading, which is way above the greenhouse gas target that he has. Then you basically create a surplus of CO2 emissions which you can distribute to your other vessels. So by investing in one vessel, using it with green fuel, all your other normal vessels are going to take the benefit of this. So this is, let's say, quite interesting. Now, based on this calculation and based on some assumptions, with e-methanol, up to 2034, you can have 13 vessels that can continue operating as normal. It's not bad. So, these are the takeaways from this study. Half of the vessels ordered using LNG, LPG, or methanol in the dual fuel engines. Shore power is a mature technology, is not so expensive, and can save shipping from about 7% on emissions. The energy saving devices shall not be ignored, especially until 2030, because you can provide up to 16% reductions in CO2, and that will allow other technologies, more, let's say, scientific technologies, like ammonia or like carbon capture or even nuclear, to give it the time required for the technology to be marinized, safe, and people feel comfortable in using it on board. CO2 storage would play a significant role if the whole value chain was available. Unfortunately, if we want to be serious about carbon capture, in maritime, we need to create this value chain. I believe that other industries like cement factories have more interest on the carbon capture than marine. But we will see. And with these decarbonization targets and the IMO ambition, but also the EU ambition, and all these other regional requirements, could double the cost of transportation by sea. And lastly, pooling is a benefit, and we hope that what the Fuel EU allows will be also applicable on the IMO greenhouse gas levy. The advice on every report that we have been issuing over the last few years remains the same, however. We need to consider reducing the energy consumption now, and I think there are solutions for existing vessels and for new vessels. Depending on ship type, as we explained, there are different decarbonization options that can work. There's no one solution that fits everything. Fuel flexibility, I think it is a smart way, and I think this is one of the reasons why we're going with dual fuel engines, because we have seen LNG becoming extremely expensive and then it becomes extremely cheap. So we need to have this kind of flexibility, because if we say tomorrow that everybody goes to, let's say, methanol, imagine what the methanol prices will be. And finally, unfortunately, the long-term fuel strategy is the only realistic one to consider. So, thank you very much. That was my presentation.
Thank you to our guest. And just now, maybe someone has some question regarding the presentation. Okay, I will start.
Okay.
Don't be shy. Okay, and last week on the Bloomberg TV, I saw one interview with some very important person, and he said that the price of the cost for CO2 emission will be gradually going down.
Yeah.
And what is your opinion regarding how to play on the market one prudent owner to buy well in advance just now the quotes, or to wait how to develop the things?
This is interesting. I don't think I'm the best person to give this kind of advice. If I could answer this, I would be very rich.
Out of record.
But the truth is that when we were talking about CO2 prices, the price went all the way up to, let's say, 650, which was used in various models to say, yes, ammonia will be very successful provided the CO2 is 650. Carbon capture would be very good, successful provided the CO2 is 650. I think the CO2 is high now because it's only EU that is taxing it. When it becomes a global, let's say, commodity to tax and trade through the, and IMO may solve this problem, then it will become more regional. And then we have EU that is taxing CO2 and other regions and areas, they're not taxing at all. So EU will lose, if that continues, EU will lose the benefit of being competitive for transportation of goods and will be out of the market. That will be catastrophic. So I think that with the politics that are happening now, I think that it is a valid statement and a theory behind it to support that CO2 prices will go down. That's my take. And by the way, I think in our energy transition outlook, I think we use 200 as, let's say, the price of CO2 up to 2050. So 200, which is significantly lower than what it is even now. Yes, please, yes.
Mr. Karystios, thank you very much. It was a very nice presentation from your side. I introduce myself. I'm head of S&P department of Naval, Bulgaria.
Okay.
For more than 15 years.
Okay.
In view of this, I would ask you, going back to the beginning of your presentation, about last disposal of this information for Chinese-built vessels to be restricted with heavy taxes, disbursements, etc. What is your opinion about Indian shipyards, Vietnamese shipyards for the future? How can they be considered alternative for bulkers, for tankers?
The answer is clearly yes, and I will but I need to explain why. I don't think that personally. I don't think that this. I don't think this announcement that was last week made about Chinese-built vessels. We need to take it too seriously now. We need to, however, be very careful and monitor it. And I know that even American companies have stopped their new building programs until this is cleared out. I have my doubts if it's going to happen. Maybe it's more of a bargaining trick. That is one. The Chinese market, shipbuilding nation, is already very, very big. It can grow even more. But as it has happened in all the other new building nations, when, let's say, the people are getting, achieving better quality of life, the first thing they will do is move away from heavy industries, and new building is a heavy industry. So that happens in Europe, in Japan, in Korea. In Korea they cannot find workers at all. I mean, the same will start happening in China. When? I don't know. So already in India and in Vietnam there are plans and investments, and actually I was surprised recently I heard about India that they have successfully delivered some MPV vessels. Okay, they will start with basic vessels,
It was the same story in China.
exactly the same story with China. So it cannot be ignored, but if you want a timeline, maybe it will take at least 10 years. Okay. To become a significant bubble in this bubble system with and another thing that is encouraging, because we have heard a lot of countries were having aspirations to become new building nations in the past, India including, but now I think that this know-how that exists in Japan, in Korea and in China, some kind of collaboration with Indian companies is the only way that it can work. So we have information that companies like Hyundai or companies like Mitsubishi are cooperating with Indian.
Already they
Start the discussions about how they can do this kind of transfer. I mean, imagine, this is a dream, this is recording, maybe that's not so. But imagine that you go to India, for example, and you buy a Hyundai vessel. I mean, we see that in Vietnam, yeah? You go to Vietnam, and if you go to Hyundai Venus, you buy a Hyundai vessel,
yeah? Same happened with Philippines.
Yeah, but take, you know, our people who are using iPhone, they buy an American phone, it's built in China, you know? But this know-how, it's very important to be ignored. And you have the benefits of, you know, having newer facilities, bigger facilities, workers who are willing to work. I mean, in Korea, nobody in Korean wants to become a welder. In India, why not?
Thank you.
I have a Hyundai made in India.
Oh.
And I can tell you.
A car, you mean a car? I was
Yes,
shocked.
but
I was
it's
right.
Hyundai made in
Yeah.
Mumbai. And
yeah.
the quality, it's the Hyundai is making the biggest money, but the quality, it's not Hyundai.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
But,
I have a Hyundai also. It's 27 years old, and my father scrapped it now, and
Still drives.
Still going on.
Yes, but made in Korea.
made in Korea, yes.
But the question is that if I try to sell to you a Greek car made in Greece, which we don't have automotive industry in Greece, at a cheaper price than your Hyundai made in India, which one you would buy? You see what I'm trying to say? I have no brand to sell to you, but I'm in Greece, okay, better, let's say, labor force and more expertise. We don't have even the designs, we don't even have after-sales support. So imagine that you do that on a vessel. You go to Vietnam and it's a brand that you don't know if in 5 years' time they will be there.
All the Samsung is coming from Vietnam. The Samsung telephone is coming from
Yes,
Vietnam.
but you buy Samsung. I mean, if something happens, you will not blame Vietnam, you will blame Samsung, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes.
If this is a personal car, you can make this risk.
Yes,
But if
yes,
this is
but
a
here is
business, and
Exactly.
you know how much will cost
Exactly.
your maintenance later,
And
and
who
what
is
kind
going
of
to-
trouble you can get.
Think about the banks as well. I mean, who will give you a loan to, who will invest on your new building? If you build it in Hyundai, if you build it in Hellenic shipyards in Greece, which they don't build vessels. You know what I'm trying to say? It's, you have access to money, you know, these kind of things.
And also another thing that the access to the resources,
Yes.
because the China already it's in Africa, they winning all the resources from Africa, Now, who will win the resources? Because the Chinese paying the biggest money for the metal, for anything else.
Yes, very good point. This is a very good point. Yes. So, I think Chinese shipbuilding is here to stay. In the past, when I went to China, I went in 2012. That time there were a lot of shipyards in China, but that time it was an opportunistic investment on shipbuilding because there was a lot of demand, a lot of private yards, very few, let's say, governmental yards, and a lot of them closed when the crisis came. They couldn't deliver, they couldn't get the refund guarantees, they couldn't do many things. Now they are taking it much more seriously. I mean, now basically there are groups, big groups, very strong groups, very reputable groups, good know-how, and the facilities they have plenty. I mean, they just go and invest in one facility which was built in vessels 10 years ago, still brand new, eh? They buy it, they make it part of the group, all the know-how is there. I think that it's here to stay.
Okay, another question?
I have something only.
Yes.
Because I was living in the time of communistic society.
Like
When
most
I
of
was
us.
here naval cadet in this academy, and we are very close to build the communistic life. Now I have this feeling that we are coming to another culture revolution
Yeah.
that before they have in China. We are speaking about the plans 2050.
Yes.
About the technology that's still not existing.
Yeah.
We are planning like communist leaders before they are planning a very light future, and this future never come. Crash just a few years after this very good plans. And the biggest question: why we like to save the carbon in anything else? The bigger and best saver of the carbon is the nature and the trees. Now we are burning a carbon like a coal that was before trees and was staying in the land.
In the land.
Yes. If we make just a forest everywhere, we will save more carbon than
Yes.
any. And maybe if we make like this, that we not emit any carbon anymore,
We will not have any more trees.
the trees will die because they feeling they are hungry for this carbon all the time.
I agree. That's the only thing I can say. Now about the politics, okay, yes. When things are good, people can dream. When things are not good, then start.
You can
become a
compare
reality.
Bulgaria and Greece because we have so much forest in our country. This means that Bulgarian forests are consuming and storing all the time
Yes.
carbon. The Greece not so many.
Yes, yes.
And we are still paying the same taxes. But we are making so much because the one generation during the communist life, they plant these trees.
Yeah.
Regarding the plants, I would like to tell you one story about Bismarck, the famous, everybody knows Bismarck. What is changing first in the battle? Plan for the battle. So you're talking about the plans. So this is what is going to be changed first.
That goes back to Napoleon.
Yes. Yeah, let's go.
Okay, another question. Here a lot of people which are grand educated with my education. So little, but anyway, if there is no question,
We'll be off topic also. With
yes.
anything else.
Yes, regarding the shipping industry, some question? Yes, okay.
Yes, please.
Don't be shy, don't.
Kalinev, project manager at Sense Mallorca. How close do you think is the energy efficiency design index to the energy efficiency operation index of the vessel? How much we can improve on that? How do you think? Because my company is trying to push this.
You mean the EOI?
Yeah. We are trying to affect this and improve on that because we know design index is very good, but operational index is.
Yeah, the problem with the EOI is that it's not. It's one of the ways to consider the energy efficiency of the vessel during operation, and it's not adopted the same as EDI. So, yeah, I don't know. That's my answer. because it's not the only index. There are other indexes and there are other ways to manage the energy efficiency of the vessel. It's one solution out of the center, correct?
Yes.
But it's not like globally. It's not compulsory to be used globally. So, but we can discuss this when I bring you in contact with our experts. Yes, please.
I would like to ask, what is your opinion about the future real usage and development of the hydrogen fuel in the future, in the close 10, 15 years? Because all we know that there are rumors that the big oil pool lobbyists, they are suppressing some newly developed and existing technologies to try to minimize the process of keeping hydrogen stored, because all we know that now it's so expensive to preserve in the lowest possible temperatures.
Yeah.
So this one is making so expensive these structures.
Yeah.
Do you believe that it will be possible within the next 10 years to grow up this usage of hydrogen fuel?
Well, I give you a few things that I know. There have been tests on engines by big engine maker who claim that they've run the two-stroke engines with 95% hydrogen, 5% pilot fuel, MGO, diesel, something like that.
Mixture.
Yeah, but only 5%. It is like pilot fuel. And the rest is hydrogen, and it was operating fantastic. Yeah. Anyway, we are monitoring as well. Then the second thing is that a lot of ship designers and shipyards, main shipyards, are developing hydrogen carriers. Okay, for the transportation with hydrogen. So I think hydrogen is coming, but I'm not sure if you can produce. I mean, why to import hydrogen from one place to another? I think hydrogen can be produced everywhere, locally.
It's all around us.
Exactly. That is my dilemma. I don't understand this model. Of course, they are saying yes, but you know, in one place they have so much free electricity from solar, and like Middle East, for example, the same. You know, Egypt. Free electricity due to solar panel. If you have all this free electricity, you can produce hydrogen. If you go to Germany, for example, it will cost a lot. Maybe from that aspect, we can see some kind of trading. But the technology of using hydrogen, I see it coming. We see it in cars, not cars, buses. It's happening. I think we are not far away. But far away, I want to be more specific, after 24.
Thank you.
Okay, I will conclude to the question.
Thank you very much.
Last question.
Yes.
Yes, because I'm responsible for the DNV of the Naval program, I told you, and I'm responsible for the safety of the shipping, and you know, still the safety is the first, I think.
Yes.
What is your opinion regarding what is the safety way now in the next 10 years, let's say? for using different kind of fuel,
Yes, okay. Okay.
safety way.
So basically, of course, if you put me on a bulk carrier, it's not going to be safe, okay? I mean, whatever is new needs to be, people needs to be qualified. But if we look at the technologies themselves, ammonia, we don't know. Risks there. But if we take, for example, LNG, LNG, frankly speaking, is used for fuel on LNG carriers since 1960. So it is safe. But if you have incompetent people trying to operate something safe, even if I put my 8-year daughter to drive my very safe car, she will make an accident. Okay. So safety level on technologies like LNG is there. Methanol is not something specific. But on anything else, we are not there. Especially, I would say, ammonia. It has changed totally the design of the vessel and a lot of, let's say, safety measures that needs to be taken on the design of the vessel. And of course, because I mentioned briefly about nuclear, yes, it can be considered, but the safety level now, currently, to be put on board the vessel doesn't exist, so we cannot talk about this. So provided something is safe, I don't think carbon capture has a lot of safety issues, to be honest, but the technology is not there. I think we are okay. But yes, LNG needs some kind of special training. You have here the best. Yes.
Yes, and our Naval Academy will help.
So I don't think that energy is important. It's a showstopper.
Because I read that there is a very big impact regarding nuclear, to use nuclear. Till now, maybe Russian had.
But it's totally different technologies, yeah?
Yes.
We're talking about different technologies. So this different technology, what's called the molten salt and reactors, is totally different from what has been used in the past in military, even for icebreakers. So,
Your opinion that LNG, let's say.
I mean, the LNG, the showstopper of LNG is that it should have been always a cheap fuel, but it hasn't been. Only because of the Ukraine, the prices went to the roof, uncontrollable. That is one. And second is, it still is, you need to invest a lot of money. I mean, on a new building, it is at least 10% more of your new building price, at least 10% more. When you make some kind of investment. So 10% more, we're talking about millions. The price is a little bit unpredicted. If you don't sort these things out, the business case is difficult. But safety, I think is okay.
Okay. I want to thank you and to our host, Naval Academy. Unfortunately, Fleet Admiral Kalinov is not in the Varna, just now in our capital, Sofia. But anyway, received greetings by him. I promise to share contacts with you in order to be familiarized with the Academy. What is your impression of the Naval Academy?
Very impressive. I mean, the simulators that I saw and the bridge and the simulator that I went in and I thought, oh my God, it's moving. Because it's moving, it's your eyes, it's amazing. Yes.
And the Greek students are also very impressive.
Yes, which I'm trying to avoid. I'm trying to avoid, yes.
Okay.
And I didn't know that you 600 Greek students I heard.
I don't know exactly how
Yeah,
much.
that's what they told us. 400, yes.
400, yes. Okay, I will say благодаря, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.